In this video, we're going to take a look at the dope sheet. Now, the dope sheet provides a top-level view of our entire animation, and it also allows us to modify the animation in whole or in part. Before we enter into the dope sheet and make modifications to our animation, I want to turn on my frame rate so that I can actually see how fast this animation is playing back. To do this, I'll go to Display, Heads-Up Display, and turn on Frame Rate. That's going to give me a little frame rate down here in the bottom corner, and let's hit play and see exactly how fast this animation is playing back. So it's playing back at 24 frames per second, and with that, our bird looks like he's moving in slow motion. So we want to speed up the overall timing of this animation. And let's open the dope sheet. I'm going to go to Window, Animation Editors, and choose Dope Sheet. Let's raise this up, and we'll rescale this here a bit so we can see things a little bit better. Currently, there's nothing inside of the dope sheet. We must have an object selected in order for it to show up. I want to select all of the objects that I animated. And my goal here is to change the overall speed of the entire animation. I don't want to lose the sync of my animated objects by moving any of these individually, so I want to manipulate them all at once. To find all of the objects that I have animated, or all of the nodes that I have animated, I can open up the hypergraph, and it will show me every node that has animation by displaying the node as a slanted node. So this object here has keyframes, and we can see that show up in the channel box as well. And I'll hold Shift, and I only want to grab my control handles and not any of the actual joints. So we'll grab that leg handle there, our right leg handle, and then we need our body. There is the upper body handle and the head. We've got the shape node there. Let's grab that. That one's not animated, so we don't need that. So I've got my body, I've got the head, and let's turn off shape nodes. That way it'll make it a little bit easier to see exactly which objects are which. There we go. And again, I don't need any of the joints with the exception of the wing. So you can see the root there, it's slanted because it has an incoming animated connection, and that's basically coming from our control handle there. But I do need the wing. We added rotation to the left wing. Now the right wing is going to follow along because we've made that node connection, so I don't really need to select it. Let's minimize that, and we'll take a look here. Now that I have nodes selected, they show up inside of my dope sheet. Now at the very top, I have the dope sheet summary. This shows me where I have a keyframe. Let's zoom out a little bit so we can see all of it. There we go. Doesn't exactly tell me what it's attached to, but it tells me that there are keyframes at that particular position in the timeline. So right here, I know I have a keyframe at frame roughly 72. And if I look down, I can see that that keyframe is on left wing. Here, I have all of my selected objects, and we can expand these further to see which channel that it's actually added to. So if I expand that all the way out, I can see that I have keyframes on the translate values. We'll keep that condensed because we don't need to modify any of those individual channels. We want to modify the entire thing. We can select our keyframes just by drawing a marquee. To deselect, we can just click into any empty space there. So I want to scale this animation, so I'm going to select all of my keyframes, and I will use my normal scale hotkey, which is R. So we'll just hit R and we get a separate manipulator there. And then I can grab that manipulator. I'm just left clicking, and I can scale all of those keyframes at once. Now we're going to take our animation here and knock this down in half. We were at 120 frames. I'm going to knock it down to 60 frames. And we'll hit play. And that's a little bit better. We get a little bit better speed coming out of him, a little bit more realistic. Let's stop that, and we'll also change our timeline to reflect the new length of our animation. I could choose this one here. That's only going to modify my playback range. I want to modify the entire thing, so we'll change that to 60, the outside value there, and hit play, and now we don't have any of those dead frames in there. And we could, interactively, we can just reduce this down to see if it works a little bit better at a different frame range. I think we'll leave it out there at frame 60. Now I'm going to click off. And inside of our dope sheet here, we could also change smaller portions of our animation. So for instance, let's stop that. If maybe we wanted him to come down and hesitate a little bit before he takes off, I could select just these and scale those down. When I hit play, you can see he hesitates and then goes. Now that doesn't look very realistic. He's kind of stopping in midair there. Or instead of scaling, I could hit W and middle mouse and drag the keyframes that I've chosen. So I can move this little section here out to frame 24. And then he speeds up. So he goes a little bit slow there in the beginning, and then speeds up as he starts to take off. We can click on individual keys as well and manipulate those again through either W or selecting multiple keys and scaling. We move around inside of the dope sheet just like we would inside the hypergraph or hypershade. We just hold Alt and middle mouse and pan through there, and we can also zoom with our right mouse. Ultimately, I'm going to just reset this back, and we'll just keep it right now at half the size of our original animation, and we'll leave it there.